Hi, everybody. Welcome back to RVAsec 2023. Chuck Harrell, SecurityGuyTV.com. Our next guest, what's your name, sir?
Ian Macrae.
Name of the company?
EN Computers.
ENComputers.com. It's not a dash. It's just ENComputers.com.
You got it.
Excellent. What do you guys do?
We're a managed service provider, and we also do managed security services.
So our today's topic is compliance with government contractors in 2023. That's got to give people a headache. I was in security for a long time. Maritime compliance. You know, Coast Guard sets the standards. You got to comply with. I have to say, the government has some good standards. The issue, they do. They're really good, right? Especially in cybersec and things like that. The question is, how do I follow them? Because that's not your bailiwick. You're running a business, and you're out there making a widget, and all that other stuff isn't interesting to the creative person that runs the company. But you got to do it. You got to do it. So let's talk about that. Give me some ideas on consulting compliance. Is that, can you put that into your business as a cost that makes sense and you get a return on it?
Yes. So my father was a building inspector. So I understand what you go through. But, at the end of the day, I got into this compliance journey because I was frustrated at the lack of standards in IT. And when I look at these standards, they make sense. And they're not that expensive to follow.
Right.
The reality, though, is that a lot of business people don't realize what it takes to have a secure network or even have a good quality, reliable network.
They don't, even though they have their guy on board and their CISO. There seems to be some weird disconnect in all that.
It could often be the case.
Yeah.
So the compliance standards help IT, I think, communicate to management that we have to do these things. And having a compliance program, the cost of my services to start consulting with a business, they usually start out around $750 a month for a small organization.
That's it? That's super reasonable.
It's an overall compliance journey for an organization. It's probably like a $200,000 lift over a couple of years.
Okay.
And you also still have to have a properly functioning, fully funded IT department.
Right.
If you don't have that to begin with, it's going to be bigger.
Now, what's the return on investment for that? Because if you're out of compliance, you're either down, off network, or you're out of business. Could be, right?
Well, I really like to think of it, though. Many of the businesses that I'm working with, it's the first time they've really thought seriously about policies and procedures, especially in things like IT.
In 2023, they're still thinking that way. That's amazing.
Well, there's a lot of small businesses out there, and that's bottom of the list.
Yeah.
So you look at an organization like McDonald's. That is a giant compliance project.
Right.
So I think a lot of times, yes, it's becoming more and more the case that you're not going to be able to do business with the federal government if you don't have a compliance program. But these are all things, and I look at the regulations and I think about what we're trying to do.
Right.
It's all stuff that every business needs. And if management and everybody buys in and pushes together on it, you could be the next McDonald's.
Right. Who's the cybersec government agency? You hear about it on the news all the time. It's an acronym, and I've interviewed them 3-4 times. I can't remember, but they kind of set a lot of the recommendations for cybersecurity. It'll come to me after the interview, but I interview these people. They're all very smart. They know what they're talking about, and they're frustrated because they write the compliance, and they go out to people and they lecture and say, here's the best practice, and it's going to help you guys. It's a minimum standard, and they can't get people to do it. Do you think it's because people don't understand the implementation on their side? There's some kind of slight disconnect between why don't you just follow this number 1, number 2, number 3, right? Execution is not there.
Well, I think IT has grown up in a period of profound deregulation.
Oh,
so there's none of the comprehensive controls, and we haven't really taken a comprehensive mindset to IT regulation. So, for example, most of the compliance requirements from that really have teeth have come up in an industry vertical setting.
Okay, makes sense.
So if you're in finance, it's different than if you're a lawyer, and it's different than if you're a government contractor. All of these industries have different standards. But the thing is that you're an IT professional first and foremost. I'm going to be in my career in IT.
Right.
And I'm going to work with finance companies. I'm going to work with healthcare. I'm going to work with government contractors, and I think that's the number one issue. If you're a pilot, you get an FAA license.
Right.
If you crash the plane, they're not going to let you fly another plane.
That's right.
So, but that's not the case. If you're an IT guy and you breach the network because you're doing stupid things, you just go over and you get another job over in this other place.
Because of shortages and all kinds of things.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
It's very
But I mean,
interesting.
there's no comprehensive framework. I think that's the number one thing.
What are some common mistakes in implementing a compliance program that people make?
I think the real serious common mistake is not getting the business leadership buy-in right from the beginning.
Right.
And this is often not because IT doesn't want that buy-in, but business views it as an IT problem. I want you guys to go fix this for me. And they don't realize just how much work goes into understanding the data flow in the network. And if the business can scale back and better utilize the systems that IT is giving them, they can really impact the cost of these programs.
So when you talk about the buy-in, the old school model is CEO, CFO, COO, but now we have CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, Chief Security Officer, newer C-levels in the last 20
Yes.
years, right? And in my dealing with it, when I was talking to boards for security, was that, yeah, there's C-levels, but they still got to check with us over at the other old school C-levels. And to your point, a CISO has to get a buy-in from his other C-suites, which is
Correct.
weird. He should be kind of autonomous because he's a C-level guy. And that's the struggle, I think, that they may have compliance all the way down in their C-suite, but the other businesses, so you're a cost center. So, you have to come to us to double check on this. And really, it's not a cost center. It's a profit center if you run it right. So that's very frustrating for a C-level CISO guy, I think, or an IT guy.
Yes. I mean, I think at the end of the day, though, you have to have a well-architected system.
Right.
So everybody's got to be working together. And I think a lot of the security issues are because there's a lack of architecture.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Nobody ever installed the doors and windows, so of course the criminals are jumping
That's
through
right.
them,
That's right. Well, I talked to a guy at Black Hat one year, and I said, "What worries you?" And he goes, "I'm surprised the internet works because the entire thing was built on trust. There wasn't a line of code that said security first. That was like 30 years later we put in security for it, right?
Yeah.
And it is amazing that it works. It just keeps working. What's a good place to start with the compliance program? The buy-ins, I think the best place to start. But let's say you get the buy-in, you have to keep convincing everybody as you progress, I think.
Yes. So your first meeting should really be around understanding the flow of data through the business. If people just need a quick win, install two-factor authentication. Make it your second meeting, But at some point, you got to really understand the flow of data
Right.
through the business, and that's got to be one of those early things that you get done with your team, your diverse team.
This is what I've seen growing up in security. So I'm 62. All my friends are now either chiefs of police, because I was a policeman, right?
Okay.
Or they're approaching C-suite levels, or, they're up there because they stayed. And I just bounce around and I do this now. But my generation didn't invent the technology. The people right before me, 10 years older, invented it. We didn't use it because we're out in the 80s going to discos. We didn't quite get it. I had my first computer. I got it, right? But my friends, they still don't use Quicken. How do you balance a checkbook? I just get the statement. What are you talking about? They've been doing that 40 years, right? So the C-level guys now of my generation are kind of like, no, I kind of get this IT stuff. I kind of don't. I think the next generation, full in. I get it. I'm on board kind of thing. I think that's a big challenge. And when I used to pitch things for the C-suites for security, and I brought in an IT component, they're like, blink, blink, right? Do you find a blink, blink factor in some of these things when we're explaining stuff? Even if you take the technical stuff and boil it down to something simple, I still get a blink, blink a lot of times when I talk about this stuff.
Yeah, I enjoy talking with people about technology and solving problems in their business, and yeah, you got to make it relatable.
Right.
I think that's, at the end of the day, it's really helpful with some of these things if you can see something of a visual representation. Right. At least that helps me a lot.
So AI, that's going to change everything, you think? What do you think?
Wow.
New compliance standards, right? I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're so early with AI.
But that's when we have to start writing
yes.
it. Because if you write it after he takes over, we're doomed.
Yeah. I don't know. If what I did hear something that was interesting, where AI, it's all connected.
Right.
So, if it has that moment where it has that clarity of vision to take over,
Yeah.
it's all going to have it at the same
Yeah,
time.
I mean, guys at Blackhead,
So-
they say the internet's going to become self-aware in 10 to 15 years. I said, what's that mean? He says, well, instead of waiting for you to give it a command, it's going to say, let me go make my own command. And he says, we don't know what's going to happen. I said, yeah, I know what's going to happen. It's not going to be good. Mr. Ian, thanks for coming on the
Thank
show,
you.
my friend.
Thank
Give
you.
us your website name one more time.
IanComputers.com.
All right, great talking to you. Good conversation. Back in a minute, RVAsec 2023.